Welcome. You're listening or watching Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio, and today I'm joined by great friends of the show and of mine, Nick Tabor and Dennis. Nick, we'll start with you. How are you doing this morning?
Absolutely great, man. Happy to be here. Thank you for always having me on the show.
Oh, excellent. I'm so excited to have you. And I said morning, but maybe you're listening in the afternoon, so we'll change it. Dennis, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing amazing. If I was any better, I would be triplets, but looking at the screen, I see triplets, so I am awesome.
And if you are new to the show and you haven't seen us, maybe you go to Facebook and not Facebook, maybe you go to YouTube and check us out on YouTube and you'll see exactly what Dennis is talking about. So I've called you all here today. We're going to discuss why martial arts teachers need teachers themselves. But before we get there, I want to make sure people know about the stuff we do here at Whistlekick. You can go to whistlekick.com to find out all of the things that we do. I could give you a list. It's too many to list. I don't have enough fingers if I were to count them off. There's too many things that we do. You can go to whistlekick.com to find out all of the things that we do and the products that we offer. You can go to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com for this podcast. We have over 1,045 episodes at this point. All of those can be found at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. They're all listed there for free. You can find show notes and transcripts and photos and all sorts of things on our guests as well. And all of that stuff is there. You'll also find a subscribe button to subscribe to our exclusive newsletter. You will get notified of every podcast as it gets released, as well as some bonus things. You'll get a free book. All of that stuff you'll find there. But here we are to talk about martial arts teachers need teachers. And I thought this would be a good one to bring up because, Dennis, last week, you and I talked about finding a good school if someone's looking for a school. And one of the things we talked about was, finding an instructor that is also has an instructor. And I thought, next week, let's record that episode. And so it also got me to thinking that Jeremy did another episode like this. Almost over 8 years ago, episode 156 titled "Everyone Needs a Teacher." Now, a lot has changed in 9 years. We are neither of the three of us are Jeremy, so we might have a slightly different thought on it. So I thought, you know what? Let me bring Dennis and Nick on to talk about martial art teachers need teachers. So, Nick, why don't we start with you? When I say that statement, what does that mean to you?
I actually wholeheartedly agree with it because the way that things are going in the world, I started in 1991 in the martial arts world, and the world is completely different. We survive in this industry with each other. We don't have to be enemies. And I also think that as we get along, past the colored belt stage, underbelt, go to black belts, we have to constantly train. Our bodies change, things change differently, and also it's also for our mental side of things. If we don't upkeep it, and we don't try to do things, we kind of get lost in the dust a little bit. We become a relic. We want to keep up, we want to keep going. So yeah, we do need teachers because we need to improve.
Dennis, what about you?
And the first thing that always comes to mind is Joe Hyams said in the martial arts, he has a chapter, even the masters need masters. And I agree 100%. It's Nick's point.
Yeah.
An instructor should continuously be evolving, learning, and be a student. I recall my last black belt promotion. I was awarded a ceremonial belt that has alternating red and white panels. The red representing teacher and the white representing student. And I was told the reason why that belt alternates teacher, student, because the cycle never ends.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And yeah, and as a teacher, you're learning from, of course, you have instructors, hopefully, but you should also be learning from your students. You should always have that beginner mindset, and that's where my mind goes to.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why we created with Kataro the Forever Student Belt, white on one side, black on the other. Right, that's one of the reasons we
Love
came
that.
about that. But I think it's important to consider martial arts change, right? And like
Yes.
Nick, Dennis, you've both been training for decades. And I think you would agree that the martial arts you started training in, you started learning, has changed since then, right? Your experiences has changed that martial arts for you. And I think most people would understand that and conceptually be able to agree with that when you really stop and think about it.
Right.
You know, Gishin Funakoshi, the founder of Shotokan Karate, what he started teaching when he first was a teacher changed. So his later students learned something that was very different. I mean, maybe very is not quite the word, but it was definitely different from what he taught his first students. So we have to recognize that martial arts change even through one person. And I think over time it evolves even more. And I think the
Yes.
reason that happens is outside influence. Dennis, thoughts?
100%. So my original instructor, Curtis Ennis, he was a black belt in karate and taekwondo, and phenomenal martial artist. But he recognized there was more out there, so he started studying jiu-jitsu, Miyama-Ryu jiu-jitsu under Antonio Pereira, and fell in love with the art and made it all the way to ninth degree black belt in that system, taking on just a brand new path, realizing that there were, well, as good of a martial artist as he was, as strong of a fighter as he was, there was more to learn and there was more beauty beyond just the striking that he learned. He later, he's about 12 years older than me. He eventually retired and moved to Florida, and then he took up Tai Chi. So there's a
Mm,
whole new world of martial arts out there to learn, and he and I stay in touch to this day. And it's amazing that he continues to have. And I mentioned earlier, and I saw Nick agree to it with it, is having that beginner mindset that there's always more to learn. And I can talk about my other two main instructors, Joe Lewis, who first world heavyweight kickboxing champion, 10th degree black belt. You can't go beyond that, right? Yet he continued to travel around the world. He would go to Thailand every year to learn Muay Thai. He studied under Dr. Mangi, uh, Burmese boxing. He was always a student. He
mm.
always considered himself to be a student. Yeah, he was a teacher, but always a student. And that's just a tremendous mindset for someone of his level of expertise to have that always to be a student mindset is very motivating to all of us as his students. And to this day, one of your instructors, Andrew, Superfoot Bill Wallace,
Mhm.
at his annual conference when we train with his students who are his high level students, he gets on the floor and trains with us as a student. He said he's going to be 80 years old this December, but he's continuously trying to learn and get better. How can you not be motivated by that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Nick, thoughts?
I absolutely agree with everything Dennis is saying here. I think that we, as one of the quotes that I learned from my original sensei Eric Gifford, is the greatest teacher in the world is always a perpetual student. We cannot
Beautiful.
know everything. We cannot know everything. We can't, and it evolves. He also trained under Superfoot as well, and did there in several other places. And we were encouraged, once we did reach a certain point, to move on. And I was under another person, Sensei Jeff Curry, under my underbelt years, and he only had one person, and he just kind of lived, and he went on the wayside. But now I train under another guy who went in my school, and I rent a space in a gym, and some of my students want to have a rivalry, and I said, no, we're not going to do that. He teaches Tai Chi, Sensei Mike, and I learned from him. He learns from me, but also with the way that things evolve. Just to your point as well, people have evolved a lot. Like since when I was a student teacher under Sensei Gifford in the '90s, there was a way of doing things. He was an ex-Marine, so you take them through that. People leave, people go. But now you have a totally different connected world. So when you have somebody like that, and Sensei Mike's a little bit younger than me, but he knows different connections than I do, and different ways. So I can take from that to grow as well.
Mm.
Um, And then, also what we can do is as we evolve and, pick up things, there's always a way to do it. And the way that I look at it, like, you're going to learn in the garden of life. And if you go pick from one area of the garden, you're missing out on so much.
Yes.
You're missing out on so much from there. Like paraphrasing from a friend of all of ours, Steve Watson, you go and enjoy the soup of life, but it's missing, you want to get that one thing, but you're missing all the nutrients and all the other stuff. So why not take the whole thing in?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
For me, when I think of why it's important to have a your own teacher is, I think we would all agree, and I think all of our listeners would also agree, that is there an end to martial arts? No, there isn't. And we all know that. So if there is never an end to martial arts, if you don't have a teacher, if you are not learning martial arts from someone, you have just told all of your students that there is an end. There must be, because if there isn't an end to martial arts, why should you have an instructor that's not learning from someone else? Now, I want to be really clear here. You could be a 10th degree black belt maybe in Master Ken's case, an 11th degree black belt in Ameridote. But you could be a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th degree level black belt in whatever art you're in. That doesn't mean you can't still have a teacher. Maybe you're learning a different style, right? And those things that you're learning in another style will start to impact what you do and how you learn. And sometimes those things are, and I'm going to say silly, putting this in air quotes, sometimes the things you're learning are as silly as how to teach something, right? Everybody has, and Dennis, I know you've said this, everybody has something to learn. Yeah. Everybody has something to teach, rather, I should say. Everybody can teach something to someone. And if you don't have an instructor, what I read from that is there's nothing for me to learn. And I think we all would agree that that's not the right philosophy to have if you're going to be a martial artist. A little controversial, perhaps, but, Nick, do you have thoughts on that type of statement?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I mean, I use the metaphor of the tree. Even where you have it, where the white belt signifies in Chas and Do as the seeds are planted, and the black belt is the hardening of the bark. But when you think about it, it's the hardening of the bark. The tree still has life. The tree can still grow and still give so much. And what we do if we're not growing, we're stunted. And you're absolutely right. If we're not learning and there's nothing else for us to learn, then what does that show a student who is coming up? And it reminds me of one of the things I thought of growing up, where I remember being 10, 12 years old, somewhere around there. I had parents who were kind of miserable in life at that point. They had jobs that they didn't really like, and they were kind of like, what do I got to look forward to as an adult? But then I went to the dojo, and I had a sensei who was constantly loving everything and saying, okay, there I have something to and then a technique would start to join, Chas and Do is a build of many different arts. But then, he started taking grappling courses and said, hey, guys, we need to do this, and started learning little bits and little things here. And then we got better because it's not just about point sparring. Okay, you're the greatest fighter because you can get to 3 points in a match every Wednesday night. That's good. But are you able to handle yourself here? It was okay, now I can learn, and constantly it gave me that, that constant explorer mentality. If I'm here, then I have to constantly figure out because there's never, if I, go to the end of it here, I have, I'm at the end of my life. I'm on my deathbed. I think, okay, did I leave every stone? Did I turn over every stone? Did I leave anything unturned? If I know I didn't learn it, then I'm going to be disappointed at that point. And that's a big driving force for me. I think most people have a similar thing like that.
Yeah. Dennis?
Yeah. So in 1997, I was a black belt for about 11 years, and I was named the head instructor, chief instructor of the school where I had grown up in and taught and learned. Um, I was lucky. We had different systems. I learned judo, jujitsu, but karate was my thing. I'm third degree. I'm head instructor. I said, this is not the end. I said, I have too many things to learn still. My instructor had joined the army and then eventually moved to Florida. I said, I need to seek out more teachers. So it was 1997, and ironically, about 2 miles down the road from where I live now, I met Joe Lewis, going through Black Belt magazine looking for seminars. And at that time, I wasn't living anywhere near here, but I drove the 2 hours to go and meet Joe Lewis and train with him. The rest from there is history. With Mr. Lewis, through him, I met Bill Wallace and so many other great instructors who I consider to be my teachers today. I've got a dozen teachers now, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And I'm a little bit higher than third degree today, and I've got 45 years into this stuff. But I consider myself to still be a white belt today. Every time I get on the floor with one of my teachers, or even um, just a training session with my peers, I never walk away without having learned something
Hmm.
and having spent time with time well spent, for lack of a better term.
And I think that you bring up a really good point, Dennis, in that I don't think any of us are saying that it has to be a structured
Right.
you go to your
Right.
instructor once a week, every week. Like it doesn't have to be like that. And now it can be. My instructor is just recently got promoted to sixth degree black belt. He travels about 2 hours once a week every week to train
Wow.
with his instructor who just
Wow.
recently was promoted to eighth degree black belt when he was last in Okinawa. But even he, eighth degree black belt, just recently got promoted. He's still training with his teacher, right? There are other ways to
Yes.
do it. So it doesn't have to be, and I don't think any of us are saying it has to be a structured once a week, even once a
Right.
month. But I think there just needs to be this back and forth of knowledge. Like, yes, you're a teacher, you are giving stuff to your students, but you need to be learning as well. And yes, we would all agree you learn from your students, but I think I look at it when I say martial art teachers need teachers. Yes, I'm learning from my students, but I think it needs to be more than that. It needs to be you still
Yes.
have to have someone that is teaching you something outside of what you're learning from your direct students.
Yeah.
Agreed. I
I got
think, we're talking. Oh, go ahead, Nick. You go first, please.
no, I got a story on that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
There's with a friend of the show, Kelly Thomas, who had been teaching with me, and we connected through Whistlekick, became good friends, and she specializes in teaching women. And I've, growing up where I really started to learn how to teach and develop myself, it was maybe 90% boys, 10% girls, roughly somewhere around there. I mean, now it's growing, and over the years, I've had pretty much, 60-40, 70-30. And, I'm like, okay, what do I do if something comes up? And at least having someone in the new wave, and I say, okay, Master Thomas, what do I do here? And we sat, and she sat with me for just about an hour and a half and rolled through many situations. I had no idea what to do.
Hmm.
And I would say that, but it's just sometimes it's like, and the beauty of it is the most freeing statement in the world, even though you're at this point where you have the knowledge, is to say, I don't know.
Right.
And then be willing to do it. And also, it's
Yep.
like a thing that I've learned. My dad always said something like this, like the a white it was a black belt is a white belt that just stuck around to get dirty. I'm like, she'll
Right.
be the dirtiest one in the building. Just keep going. You got more to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, what I was about to say, Nick, is it's the beauty of Whistlekick and this organization. We have free training days across the country every year, and it's my
Yeah.
absolute favorite event. And in terms of being teachers, what I enjoy most of it is that all the instructors at these events or the presenters of these events, we take each other's sessions. And
Yeah.
it's a full day, or in this case, Summit now, 4 full days of learning and growing.
Yeah.
Um, and while we might not be each other's formal instructors, we walk away with so much new knowledge. And because of the relationships that we build, we continue to train together well beyond the one free training day. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I love that Whistlekick does this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We certainly love hosting them, and you can go to whistlekick.com to find out where all of those are. We certainly would love to see you there. I think we've hit a lot of the major points. You know, the biggest thing from the biggest takeaway for me is that if there's no end to martial arts, if we are telling our students you can't ever stop learning this, if you have stopped learning stuff, that's a problem. So, you know, maybe evaluate that. And, you know, it can be a problem. I mean, I recently left a martial arts school basically because my instructor gave up and stopped training with anybody else. And multiple people would, you know, came to him wanting to help and, you know, offered to help guide him, and he was basically had no interest in that. And all that told me was he was done and he didn't want to learn anymore. And that's a problem. I think that's a problem. For me, it certainly was. So if you're out there and
Agreed.
you don't have an instructor, think about that. Maybe there's someone out there that might be able to help you out, even if it's occasionally, and help you continue your art to grow. Because if our art doesn't grow, it stagnates and stunts your growth, as you said, Nick.
Right.
Dennis, what have I missed? Anything?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about we as instructors continuing our education as teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Another great thing that WISC does, we offer martial arts teacher training and certification. And to your point earlier, Andrew, you can go to the website and see when those are what it's all about and what we offer. But as black belts and the time that all of us grew up as black belts, how many times were we put in front of a class and say, okay, go teach, and without a plan and without knowing how to teach? Whistlekick does an amazing job of helping teachers develop, beginning teachers and experienced teachers alike,
Mm-hmm.
uh, becoming better teachers and become more invigorated to be the best teachers that we can be and give our best to our students.
Yeah, I would say, and I've said this before, very few hobbies, very few things that we do is someone learning that thing and then at one point, boom, okay, now go teach it. Like you would never
Right.
expect a tennis player, like, okay, you've been playing tennis for 10 years. Great, now go take this 12-year-old and teach them how to play tennis.
Right.
You don't do that, but it happens a lot, not all the time. It happens a lot in martial arts, and so learning how to be a teacher is good, which is what the martial art teacher training and certification program is about. But it's about learning how to be a better teacher, not how to punch and kick. And you are
Right.
right, Dennis. It is not just for inexperienced teachers, people that have taken this program that have been teaching for 50 plus years and definitely got stuff out of it. So for sure. Nick, is there anything
Yes.
else that we're missing?
Two things I want to back up Dennis on that with Matic. I have my teacher certification behind this camera. It's higher than my black belt certification. I took the first one here and I was totally blown away and like elevated my abilities way beyond everything. And also, and Dennis, thank you for doing that. And head to head, you do an awesome job with it. You did great.
Thank you,
Um,
my friend.
Thank you. Also, on the fact that we need teachers, our bodies change as we get older, and we can go ahead and teach a technique like a spinning crescent kick, or do those things that we do. But you know what? We don't notice if we haven't done that in a while. We don't notice that we're not doing it right, or we don't notice, and we need
Right.
someone to look in and go, okay, you did very well there, but your hip thrust is way off. Let's practice that. And also learning, it helps you mentally keep going because as you're constantly learning, you can help with the new people because you're learning from a different person and you're learning, and then you can change your way of teaching because you're still a student.
Yes.
And
Great
that's
point.
the only way we will grow.
Great point.
That's a great comment.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me today, guys, to discuss this. This was really fun.
It was amazing.
Pleasure.
Great topic, man.
And if you are new to the show, first off, great. Glad you made it all the way through. You listened to, three bald guys talk about getting a teacher. But if that's the case, then you might not know all the stuff that we do. We already mentioned the martial art teacher training. We mentioned the free training days that happen throughout the country. There are other events as well. All of that stuff can be found at whistlekick.com. Maybe you want to purchase a shirt, or a hat or anything. All of that stuff can be found at whistlekick.com. Whistlekickmartialartsradio.com is where you'll find information on this show, the podcast, and all of the other over 1,000 episodes that we have at this point. And if you, like us, would like to help connect, educate, and entertain traditional martial artists and help us get to our goal of getting everyone in the world to train martial arts for 6 months, you can do that by telling a friend about an episode. You can share an episode with anybody. They're all free, so there's no paywall to get any of these episodes. So we would love for you to do that. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Rate and review us. It really means a lot. Go to YouTube and click the like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. All of those things cost you nothing, but really help us out. If you would like to help support the show and make it happen on a financial basis, you can do that through patreon.com/whistlekick. All right, guys, let's try this. All three at the same time. Here we go. Ready? Until next time, train hard, smile, and have a great day.
And have a great day.
All right. So, anything before we go from anybody?
I'm golden, man. Good.
I'm jealous of Nick's beard. Mine is getting all white, and his is still nice and dark.
Well, no,
that's probably irrelevant. Oh, there we go.
No, I got some here. I got some here.
And I didn't get the memo. I didn't think to grow mine out. But Dennis, if I did, mine would look way more like yours than Nick's.
I bet.